Alrighty. It is Wednesday, March 31st, 2021, and it is opening day eve. One of these two teams. Well, both of these teams. One of these two teams. Both of these teams will be playing tomorrow. One of these two teams I'll be cheering harder for, put it that way. But I won't say, because some people are really mad that it's not the team that they want me to be cheering for, which I get. But hey, I'm from Hawaii, okay? Some of you know we don't have pro baseball in Hawaii. So a lot of our fandoms towards baseball is like, we have all these stories. Maybe it's like the same city your football team is in. And I thought about that. I was like, could I be a Royals fan? And then I was like, But, growing up close to the West Coast, a lot of Hawaii people will become, fans of, either LA or maybe San Francisco teams as well. So, there is the possibility of being a solid, fan of a Major League Baseball team or any pro team outside of Hawaii. But I'm just saying it's a little bit harder when you don't get to live by a stadium. Like I can tell you that when you grow up in Hawaii, when you live on the island, one of the things that you just always dream of one day is like going to a game and driving there, and not like, of course, going to a game. That's why Hawaii Sports Fans was created, is about going to games for that very purpose, and that dream that I always had to go to all these games. But something about going to games and being able to drive to them, like a lot of people don't know how lucky they are. Some friends of mine that I have to convince to go to opening day every year. Gosh, they better be watching this too. But in Los Angeles, California, it is opening day eve, just like it is across America. But more exciting than any other opening day is the fact that fans, because last year there was no baseball, and before that we just took for granted that we could just have fans in games and all, clamoring for the best views and getting really tight and less than 6 feet apart from each other. But now we're just like, gosh, get me in the stadium. What can I do? And, I've been lucky, obviously. I've been covering football games and going to football games and, going to NBA games. So I've definitely done my COVID games, but none of them have been in California. So finally, California teams will start having fans, at least the Dodgers and the Angels. And that's very exciting because obviously the Dodgers, the reigning world champions, having them back and having them be able to celebrate with their fans is going to be really cool because, it was really weird. And for both the Dodgers and the Lakers to have won a championship, not even in, their own city, not even in the city of the opposing team, but literally in a bubble that prevented people from really being able to get close to their fans. Although you could have gone to the World Series, actually, because Texas had some fans. And I'm pretty sure Texas is still going ahead, the Rangers, with having full capacity for tomorrow's games as well, I've heard. So that'll be interesting. Shout out to our boy Cheebs. He looked like he had celebrated. He saw the Colton Wong play down there in Texas. So fans are already in the stands there. But, that's Texas. We know that. I covered the New Mexico Bowl in Dallas, Texas. Always strange to remember it's the New Mexico Bowl. That's supposed to be in New Mexico, but was in Texas, Frisco, Texas, which apparently is called Sports City, USA, because that's where the NIT is, in Frisco, Texas. So that's just a random fact. But if you've been watching the NIT on ESPN, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, that's Frisco, Texas. That's where UH won the New Mexico Bowl. But maybe you don't think that. But of course I was thinking that. So, because I was there and it's fun. And they also have the Soccer Hall of Fame there as well. And it's pretty cool because the Soccer Hall of Fame was started by, Lamar Hunt, or the soccer push, Lamar Hunt. And Lamar Hunt and his family also started a certain team. Chiefs. I'm trying to get you to be able to see my blanket that I'm sitting on, but it's the Chiefs. I'm talking about the Chiefs. But anyways, that's a series of tangents that I went on, but all connected to sports, and also more importantly connected to the fact that fan experience and is at the core of all sports. All sports, even those that you don't really you get a chance to see too much of, because even like surfing and stuff, right? Everybody's just trying to get on the beach for World Surfing League events back home on the North Shore, but even those, that's like the closest fan experience you can get, even in Hawaii. But that's why today we're going to talk about some positive signs as we look forward to the fall, as we look forward to more football tours, because like I said, at the core of this Hawaii sports fans is that tour, is that experience. This company was founded in 2012, 9 years ago, and its main objective is to have fun. First of all, always have fun. That's the main objective of my life, always. But this company is more than people just coming together and following an itinerary and going to games. It's about the experience surrounding everything, and also those things as well. And the fan experience is so important. It's so vital to games. Now we're seeing how it's important to the atmosphere, and that's what we always bring. We always bring atmosphere. You come on a Hawaii Sports Fans Tour, you see us. I mean, you see me at every game, right? I haven't missed a UH game that I could go to in 5, now 6 years. So if you see the people around me and how we're having fun, and more and more, I just meet even more of you, and it's even more fun. But I think ultimately what we miss is that experience of being in the stands, being able to hang out before the game, hang out after the game. And I truly believe in the fall that every stadium in America will be open. In my personal belief, and in some form or capacity. I'm not sure I'm ready to say everything will be a full capacity, full throttle, like Commissioner Roger Goodell recently said. I believe it was yesterday. He said that the NFL expects to have full stadiums for the 2021 season, and that would be a great thing. Obviously, having full stadiums, having a bunch of full stadiums, that would be also particularly great because at Hawaii Sports Fans, we also have tickets, as you already know, at SoFi Stadium in the club section on the 7th row. Just getting chills right now because I can look out that window and actually see a little bit of SoFi. But that's the experience right there. The most beautiful stadium in the world, the newest one, SoFi Stadium. That it better be, because this thing is expensive and it takes a lot of money, and they take a lot of the fans' money. And I can complain about that because I spent a lot of money on that. So, but the Rams, of course, very special to Hawaii sports fans. That's why. Being able to be in the Rams Stadium, being able to be there. But in the Rams Stadium, the tickets are on the visiting team tunnel. So if you are going to be playing at SoFi, your team, you want to be on the tunnel and see your team, that's where we'll be sitting, right in the 7th row, right on the tunnel. And, so you can cheer for anybody. So I could cheer for the Chiefs, when the Rams aren't playing. Because if I go to Rams games, of course I want the Rams to win. They better win. I invested a lot of money in them. But the only one game that I couldn't cheer for the Rams is when they played the Chiefs, and that was horrible. It was horrible. It was not only horrible because the Chiefs lost, it was horrible because Jared Goff played the game of his life. And literally the Rams played the best game that they played since they moved to LA. That game was glorious, obviously. A lot of you remember known as the greatest game ever played on Monday Night Football, over 100 points scored, and I couldn't even go. I was just like, handcuffed because I'm not one of those people. I don't like to cheer for opposing teams in stadiums, especially if I'm a home fan there sometimes too. So you won't catch me doing that, but you can do that if you come with Hawaii sports fans. And speaking of the Chiefs, Arrowhead Stadium, maybe there might be 2 seats on the tunnel there as well. Yes, at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri, where I was there for 2 games this past NFL playoffs, the wild card game and the divisional game, and then the Chiefs lost to the Buccaneers. Boo Buccaneers. Sorry, I just can't watch this. Now I kind of get. So this shout out to the Niner fans last year who had to keep watching Super Bowl 54 highlights. I'm probably annoying them. So now I get it. Like anything to 55, I'm like, okay, next. Get Brady off the TV. And it's like, maybe this time when he'll throw the trophy to the next boat, maybe he'll miss. Maybe it'll land in the water. I don't know. Just things I can fantasize about. I mean, that is crazy. But whatever. We're not going to talk about the Super Bowl. But we will, because the Super Bowl is always a special game for me and for Hawaii sports fans as well, obviously, because we also do a tour there. And I'm going to start taking orders now. If you really want to go Super Bowl, I'm serious. You got to come with me. Nobody goes to the Super Bowl like I do. I guess people go in different ways, but what I mean is nobody, kind of knows the game. You kind of want to be there. You kind of want to know people that have been to the city and have been around the game, because everything changes, right? Everything about a city, you retain the cultural parts of the city, but kind of the NFL controls certain aspects in terms of where they set up parts of the Super Bowl and stuff. So I always know those things because I love the Super Bowl so much. It's my favorite game, and I've been to it 6 times already. So I need to go 7 times now next year. And it's the 7th time will be in Los Angeles at SoFi, maybe even in those seats that we have. But getting ahead of ourselves, that's the excitement of football season, because as we know, it's almost April. Tomorrow is April 1st already. And I'll also be getting my second COVID vaccine shot. So I have my second shot. I'll be properly inoculated. And perhaps feeling a little woozy and nauseated. Hopefully not during the game at opening day at Angel Stadium, because that's where I'm going to be. Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. Shohei-san. I mean, you guys already see all my Angel stuff around here anyways. I have literally every Angels bobblehead. Shohei Ohtani. I love Shohei. Recently, CC Sabathia called him the best baseball player ever. And that might not be wrong. I mean, literally, Shohei Ohtani is doing ridiculous things. Have you watched him? I mean, Shohei is crazy. I mean, who can throw over 100 miles per hour and hit home runs like 500 yards? Like 500 feet. 500 yards would be amazing. Okay, 500. Okay, that would be crazy. But I mean, it's amazing to watch Shohei. So that's exciting, and to have fans there. So tomorrow night, Angel Stadium. I'll be there at the Angel Stadium. But I will admit, I was a fan of Hideo Nomo first, and Hideo Nomo was one of those people that laid the foundation for guys like Shohei and Daisuke and everybody else. Oh, of course, Hideki, and Masahiro Tanaka, who we saw pitch on a Hawaii Sports Fans tour when we saw Hideki Matsui before the game and took pictures with him. That's the kind of stuff that happens when you go on a Hawaii Sports Fans tour. Legitimately. That was amazing too. Seeing Hideki, because he wasn't like, and honestly, he wasn't even a part of the pregame plans. He was at the party next to us as we were partying in Yankee Stadium in center field in the Bronx on a beautiful September Friday late afternoon. Literally, that's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I want in life, and to do those things. And I get to do them. And I want you to come with me and do them with me, because it's so fun. It's so fun. And, just going to the Bronx. I've gone to Yankee games 3 times with Hawaii Sports Fans, 2 or 3 times. We've already been there. Gosh, how many times have we been there? 2 or 3 times already. And we've walked through the Bronx. We stayed in the Bronx. We've, gone to bodegas and, bought cannolis from there. I mean, that's the kind of things we love to do. And those are the kind of things that you really can't do on tour groups. Don't do those kind of things, because that's not really, the tour groups mostly are there to take lots of people and then go to hotels and then take them lots of people somewhere else and then take lots of people here and lots of people here and lots of people here. That's not what I do. That's not what we do. Because if I wanted to do that, I could, and I wouldn't want to. Actually, I wouldn't want to, because I'm sure, and there are tour companies that do those things, and a lot of you go on those things, and those are fun as well. I would have fun. Like I say this, the big ones that go in Hawaii and Hawaii football tours, I would probably have fun if I went with them, because I like traveling. But I wouldn't have as much fun as on my tour. No, not close. Not close. I mean, what I give you and what we do at Hawaii Sports is an experience. And I want that experience to continue, because this last year I couldn't have that. I mean, we haven't had a full tour since the NFC Championship, San Francisco and Green Bay. And we did we went to Chase Center and we saw the Warriors play and actually break a 10-game losing streak. So maybe we were the good luck charm. And the new Chase Center in San Francisco, just steps from the Embarcadero in San Francisco, crazy San Francisco. But such a fun place as well. We've gone to San Francisco all the time. Went there for Super Bowl 50. These are the kind of things, right? If you, I personally am leading all of these as well. We've done over 20 tours in the last 9 years, 20-something tours, 23 tours, and a lot of them were Super Bowl tours, which is really hard to pull off in itself and something that most people wouldn't do. But I think that it's that experience that is worth it at the very end, right? Like, it's something that you can spend your money on and be happy with all the time. I guarantee that. I tell people that all the time. Like, you can have buyer's regret from getting, I don't know, a new, chainsaw or something that you like, a toy that you see at like Lowe's or something, I don't know. And then, you buy it and it's like cool and you have it and then you use it and you put it in your shed and you're like, okay, one day I'll use that again. Sure. And maybe the day comes, maybe it doesn't. But the experience of buying a tour or going to games or traveling on your own, not even coming with me, even though coming with me is the best. But even traveling on your own, everybody knows it's just so fun. It's something that you think about all the time. Something you talk about your friends with. It's something you talk about with your coworkers when you get back to work. It's something that you can find stuff and little tinkery things, little things from events that you go to, and you have them in your office when you go back, right? Like this US Open ducky. And this ducky at the US Open, I actually got because they at the tennis tournaments, which I've been to all 4 majors. Obviously, my Wimbledon towel is a fixture kind of in my background because I love going to Wimbledon. It was amazing. But they have little things for fans before the game, to like interactive things that you can, like scavenger hunts. And that was something that I did. And you learn about fan experience. When I go to all these international events and national events, you see what, what's trending around the world and what we can have in Hawaii, But this show was supposed to be mostly about the virus, but, and it is in a lot of ways. It's the virus reminding us how much we miss a lot of those things and how much we're not going to take them for granted, right? So this year, everyone's going to sign up for all my tours. But at the same time, we are now entering a new phase where, at least in California, and what we see in California and Hawaii kind of sticks together. Right now, California and Hawaii have the lowest cases in the country. Sorry about it. They're doing the best. A lot of that is because of the vaccine. And if you're watching the live stream right now, I have this graphic up, and it is showing a line. It's plot points of cases on the y-axis. You have like the number of cases, and then you have the date on the dates on the x-axis, and then like you notice the ridiculous surge in cases that LA experienced, that wave in December, when people were like, you can't go back to LA, and I was home in Hawaii, and people were like, don't go back, and it was crazy. And I mean, there were some days where 20,000 cases a day, 20,000, and then it was like 14,000 or whatever. But the 7-day average, at least. I mean, there are some outliers, but I mean, even 20,000 as an outlier is crazy. There were a couple days there were 20,000 cases. But even the average over that span, the 7-day average, running average, was around 15,000 cases a day, which is a lot, right? And people are like, it's crazy. LA is crazy. It's nuts. Oh, in Hawaii, they're like, no, don't go there. You're going to die. Actually, yeah, Anyways, Hawaii and California are luckily experiencing some better results, particularly because of the vaccine numbers. So there is a correlation, as and California has reached its numbers. It wanted to administer like 2 million doses. It would adjust its framework for returning to normal, back to normal, right? And the way that California is moving now, as you see if you're looking at this graph, so you see in late December, you got about 15,000 average cases a day. And then look at today, the 7-day average yesterday was 548. So 548 compared to 15,000 at one time. And, that just shows how much California has had. It's hard because, first thing, LA in general is the cross point of a lot, not just international, but and different types of people and people that live here, but also people that come through here, people that drive from Las Vegas, people that drive across the country or whatever, and people that fly in or people that whatever. And so you're going to always have a confluence of people from all kinds of places. But at least now it's clear that because LA has been able to administer a vaccine, and that's one factor. That's a clear factor that has really brought the numbers down. So right now, as of this week, LA and Orange County have moved into the orange tier, which is like a less restrictive tier in California. And that is why, the previous tier that LA was in, first LA was in the purple tier, which is like the worst tier, right? And so in that tier, there were like no fans, and most of the events really didn't, most of the teams never really were trying to get fans anyways. And that's one thing. In California, a lot of the teams probably could have had fans if they wanted it, but or very limited amount. But a lot of them were just like, whatever, I don't really care. Or the owners just, weren't putting fans in the stands anyways. They were just like, we didn't want to deal with partial attendance. The Rams did that. The Chargers did that. The Niners and the Raiders did that. So I think it was only 21 NFL teams that actually had partial attendance. And even Mark Davis said, too, the Raiders coach, we'll talk about Nevada a little bit, but he could have had fans, and he chose not to have fans. He could have had some fans, but he decided not to have fans. So there's a difference between can we have fans and do the owners want to have fans. But obviously, if we're at full capacity, it's obvious owners are going to want that, right? It is kind of surprising that some owners don't even want partial fans. Like, I would think that if you could have some fans that you would try, but, a lot of people don't want to deal with COVID protocols. They don't want to deal with, having to change their facility to, meet the demands of COVID. But I think it's going to be sorry, I'm just also logging on to the live feed. So if you're on Facebook right now, aloha to everybody watching on Facebook. We're on live on Facebook on Wednesday nights, and then the show is backed up on Wednesday nights on YouTube. So you can check it on YouTube on Wednesday nights after the show is done, and then it's on podcast as well that night, and usually on whatever podcast sites. But aloha, everyone. Nolan says Subway, and let's talk about boxing. The Ben Askren versus Jake Paul. Who do you think is going to win? Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm not a boxing aficionado at all. But the Jake Paul thing is interesting because that ties into kind of society and how, people create a fan base. I mean, Jake Paul and, Logan Paul, a lot of people know them from YouTube, or they know them from, mostly YouTube, but they've branched out into now boxing and everything. And I think a lot of it is for the, the entertainment. A lot of it is for the money. I mean, that's what a lot of people do it. But I'm going to be honest, like, I watched Jake Paul. He's pretty tick. I mean, that guy, I wouldn't want to fight him. I'm impressed. And then he does his videos with King Ryan and everything. And I was like, okay, this is the new wave. So I'm not a huge boxing aficionado, but I definitely appreciate that the sport at least, I hope it's not being disrespected. Is that what I said? And I don't think that Jake Paul is disrespecting it. He might get a lot of hype, but I think it's more of the fact that people are like, oh, this guy's a YouTuber, and he's like, actually looks pretty good. Like he's taking it serious. Sean says, so that's my answer for you, Nolan. But I don't know. That who knows? Ben Askren. So people can discuss Ben Askren versus Jake Paul, and we'll talk about that. Sean says we're trending toward a return to tier 2. Yeah, and I think that is a good trend too. So as Hawaii and California are both trending, it looks like California and Hawaii will also, reap the same rewards of being able to have people get into the stands. So that's going to be on UH obviously too when it decides to bring fans in. But I think we've reached a place by now in Hawaii personally that we could have them at less more commie or something. But it is what it is. I think it's more disheartening to me, and it's personal to me more to when you see like so many tourists and it's back to almost a full clip, and we're not there yet as residents. So it's a little bit annoying, but at the same time, we understand tourism and its place in Hawaii, and I think personally we should reevaluate. And this is a tourism, right? I'm selling even tourism here, but even at Hawaii Sports Centers, wherever we're tourists too, whether we go to Australia, New Zealand, whether we go to Washington, D.C., whether we go to, the Deep South, it's all about being good citizens. It's also about being good ambassadors from Hawaii. And it's also about learning about people, always learning about local customs, eating local, helping local economy, helping those people grow. And that's what I want to see in Hawaii more. I want to see the responsibility of tourists when they come to Hawaii and have that privilege to step on my island and be able to just run your feet through the sand and go jogging on all kind of different hikes where there's no trails, and then go do Stairway to Heaven and all kind. That's a privilege to do that. It's a huge privilege to be in Hawaii, and I've traveled across the entire world to several continents, and I love so many other. I love everywhere I go. I will say this, but I don't love anywhere more than Hawaii. I don't love anything more than Hawaii. That's why there's Hawaii Sports Fan. That's why it's in this name. But Hawaii is a privilege to be there and to be able to enjoy the energy, its vibes, and the love of the people. But as we start to reopen and as we start to see more and more people coming in, I think we want to see more residents in the stands. So, and I know a lot of people have reached out and said, what about baseball? I mean, how can baseball not even have fans yet? So hopefully, the outdoor games will be able to have fans. But we'll see. But like I said, that's California. California, now that they're in the orange, they're just a few steps away from the yellow. But being in the orange, that requires, and I'm reading this off, an adjusted rate of 3.9 or fewer new cases per 100,000 people each day, and a test positivity rate of under 5%, among other metrics. So the graph that I have up there actually doesn't have the cases per 100,000 people. So I'd have to extrapolate by the amount of people that live in LA County, which I really don't want to do right now. So just put it this way, they're there right now for orange tier. That's the hope, because in California, Hawaii will be playing obviously most of its conference games, all of its conference games in non-football. If you're not football, you play in California. And for football, we're going to play most of our games in California, and we're also going to play some games in Oregon, or some games in Oregon, one game in Oregon, some games against Oregon teams, because before we play Oregon State, we actually host Portland in Hawaii the week before. And speaking of Portland, that's where we're going to be based for the Oregon State tour, because I love Portland. It's like my favorite city. I love that city. Just fun there, so fun, and we're gonna have fun. But the cool thing is that in Oregon, and their governor too, she was from early on, right? Early on in the pandemic, she was pretty outspoken and stern on what she believed in terms of her outlook, what could be done in terms of live events. And she was one of the first people to say no live events, right, for the rest of the year, the rest of 2020. And she was right. I mean, everybody was calling her out on it, but I mean, she was right. And able to, in order for it to help. Could she have loosened it? Maybe. But we're still in the pandemic now. And people thought back then, like, oh, there's no way in the end of 2020. Like, we're still in it now. We're just lucky that I'm talking about California, Hawaii, and West Coast states, because California and Hawaii and the West Coast are doing better. Definitely California and Hawaii are. And that's positive for us because that's where we play, in California and Hawaii, mostly our games, at least for Hawaii. But we do play in Beaverton, Oregon. And I know there's lots of Hawaii people there, lots of local people that have, relocated to the Pacific Northwest and to Portland. And my sister is an alumni of Southern Oregon University, so I'm sure she wants to go back to Oregon too. And I love Oregon. It's such a fun place. But the thing is, there too, everywhere has different metrics by which they can let fans back into the stadium. So Oregon's has a little bit different with lower risk, extreme risk. Even that's the funny thing is, even in Oregon's extreme risk tier, you can have fans, which is interesting to me. So they didn't have fans before, but they could have. But I guess they're slowly integrating fans in. But actually, Portland is in Multnomah County, and Beaverton is in, what is the other county? I looked it up today. So they're in different counties. So actually, their counties go by capacity requirements as well. Anyways, both of those are right now, both counties have some fans, 15 and 25%. And LA is, with orange tier, is 33%. So looking at those numbers, if California, orange tier 33%, and then yellow tier is going to be 50%, and that's without the vaccine. And these numbers are all without the vaccine. Remember that. That's not with the vaccine in mind. Like when, like there's no vaccine metric. Even though I think California is starting to, they added in something about the fact that they administered 2 million vaccines, so therefore they could change some metrics, which I think was science-based as well. And I think more things are going to start opening. I think in LA, we're already seeing a lot of things open up. But right now in the lowest tier, the yellow tier for California, and also the lower risk tier in Oregon, capacity is still maxed at 50%. So I don't assume that that's going to be the case still. If we can get more people vaccinated, I think that's the only thing that's going to move the needle is the vaccinations. But I would assume that California and Oregon would be back in that 50% capacity by the summer at least. And I'm hoping by fall 100%. I'm hoping we'll see. Certain places are not going to be like that, though, I think. But I think California are, who knows what can happen. The thing is, in California, though, full contact sports obviously didn't apply to the NCAA because some other teams played football this year. But full contact sports such as football, basketball, and wrestling are prohibited. Obviously, if your team is making a lot of money for your school, you can get around that. But that's California and Oregon. But Nevada, obviously, we play in Nevada. Shout out Fuchsia Gate coming back to ya. Okay, for obviously the epic Fuchsia Gate, which we talk about all the time because, and I helped with it too. I'm just gonna throw in my little thing. I helped with it like maybe 2 or 3 or 5, 4 or 5%, but still, maybe 1.5%. But she has amazingly continued this cool tradition every year. Every time Hawaii is played there, and it's grown every year. And she is putting on this big tailgate as well. And it's going to be hopefully outside the stadium at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, just across the I-15 from Mandalay Bay. And if you are in Las Vegas, you probably pass it a lot because it's pretty close to the airport. It's literally right smack dab. And that's the cool thing about Vegas. I will give Vegas this as well, is that everything is right there and just really centralized. So you go from like the airport to the game in like 5 minutes, if you work really fast at it. I'm surprised, like Vegas should have like a terminal for, I don't know, I'm sure if you take a private jet, you can get really fast anywhere. But McCarran Airport is kind of big though. It is. I feel like if you have to take the shuttle thingy back, and It's a big airport, but at least it's close to the Strip and everything's there. And so is Allegiant Stadium, which if you look at their website, and Fuchsia and I were looking at this today because she sent it to me, UNLV, like a lot of places, once they upgrade their program and they get into a new flashy arena, like UNLV will be playing in the Allegiant Stadium or Raiders Stadium, that comes with some privileges because there's much less parking. So the parking situation is all going to be within their athletic club, which requires donation. So you have to make donation to be able to buy a season pass. So I'm sure they'll allow the season pass people to sell per game if they want to sell pass, or they can't make a game. But it does make it kind of hard to plan. So, but knowing Fuchsia, she'll come up with something and she'll do it. So, and Hawaii sports fans will also have a tour there, and hopefully the Raiders will be in town too that weekend. Hopefully, sometimes, who knows? Because we did San Diego when we did Mariota versus the Chargers in San Diego when the Chargers still played there, and the stadium wasn't rubble, which it is now. It's so sad if you pass it. Qualcomm Stadium, that is. That stadium hosted 2 games in a row. Hosted a Hawaii football game versus San Diego State, and then the next day hosted an NFL game. So I'm hoping the same thing happens, but the NFL schedule comes out even later this year. April usually comes out, but this year, and late April, seems like it gets later every year. And this year, obviously, that 17th game was added. So that's something that's kind of exciting as well. We can talk about, even though I know it'll be, I don't know. I'm hoping it's not too much, right? I think that's the thing about football too, is it's 16 games just feels like enough. Like everything feels like enough, but I just hope it has only positive effects in the game, and the players are compensated well for it as well, which, apparently they seem to be, and it's in their collective bargaining, but they also seem to be against it. So we'll see how it plays out, but that 17th game will add some intrigue this year as well. One thing about being a Chiefs season ticket holder is that Chiefs are going to be playing the Packers from Green Bay. The Packers from Wisconsin are going to come to Kansas City, Missouri. And they're going to play the Chiefs, and that's going to be date TBA because that's the schedule. It takes forever to come out. Makes it so hard to plan, NFL. Roger Goodell. Okay, let me go back to see if people are asking questions. Okay, no questions. But yeah, so that's nice to see. But Nevada, like we said, had some fans. UNLV actually had some fans. It was pretty expensive, actually. I was looking at the tickets. It's pretty. You had to kind of throw in some money to go watch UNLV play, and it was like, UNLV. But I mean, it's probably pretty cool to be a fan. Who would have thought like the first fans to watch games in the brand new Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada would be UNLV? You wouldn't think that, but they're the ones that had a season with fans, not full fans obviously, but the Raiders decide not to do it. Mark Davis said also when looking ahead this year, because he was asked in Las Vegas paper about Roger Goodell saying that he expected to have full stadiums, and Mark Davis was also obviously very excited about that, but he also said he thinks it's still a little too early to make that call. He also said we're probably a month or 2 away from getting an idea of how the vaccine is actually going to play out. So I think what we're starting to see in California is positive with the vaccine, and I think the same trend we'll see in every state. We'll see dramatic drops. So hopefully that'll happen also at Raider Stadium, so we can be amongst 65,000 fans. Or we're going to be about 75,000 in SoFi, 65,000 in Allegiant. It seems like a lot of fans, right? They're like, it's choke people. Just put in one building, and you're like, man, I've been like sitting really close, like rubbing up against people in games for years. Like, I definitely should probably wear a mask forever, but nah, I mean, it's nice now not having the virus, maybe. I'm not going to say that. We're going to have the virus for a little while, definitely a little while. But having sanitation has been nice because things like, the common cold and like the flu have gone down like dramatically. Like it was like the least amount of people that got the flu last year, right? Because of the fact that it really had no place to go because we were sanitizing and trying to be safe from COVID. But with that being said, I'm hoping that Las Vegas as well will have fans for the season, and I expect that. I mean, I think having UNLV having limited fans this past year, we know that I doubt they'll go backwards. So that's like the big thing, right? We all want to say like, are we gonna go forwards? We're gonna go backwards, because if football season, if we want to have fans, we cannot go backwards. We cannot just you know, go we can't just let the numbers trend backwards. I don't think California, the numbers are ever going to trend back. I don't even think that another wave will hit California. I think, and Dr. Albertson, who we had on the show before, had said that as well. You know, I think California numbers have shown that the trend is there, and it's. I think we're good for California. We're good. So got to keep doing. Yeah, Joanna said, does UNLV play UMass? No, not UMass in 2021. That'd be hilarious. Robert says, mandatory vaccine taken for tours. Highly recommended, definitely. I would highly recommend that now, that everybody that wants to come on a tour would get a vaccine. Definitely recommend. Because I think that's going to be easiest, because everyone's going to be in close quarters too. Especially when we're on a tour. So Robert, our super Hawaii sports fan. Nolan says, do you follow UH Warriors men's volleyball? I do. And actually, I did share that photo of me featured in the 1994 UH men's Warrior volleyball with me and little Brad and the two little boys and the brand new Stan Sheriff Center. So I got to go find that picture. But I'll send it to you, Nolan, to prove my loyalty. And I was there, obviously, when Hawaii lost to Long Beach State. I was there at the Pyramid with Fuchsia, with Killy, with the whole gang. And then Kainoa Carlson at Hawaii News Now made me talk after the game, and I was sad. But this team is really good. So I really think that this is their chance to win the championship. I really think this is like, this is the right time. Like, I think last year they would have won it, personally. I think they could have came back. I think it would have been cool, the BYU thing again too, but they're really good. I mean, this is a really good team, and I think comparatively, just to the country, they have the talent to overbear other teams, which I wouldn't say about a lot all the time. You know, and it's crazy playing. You know, collegiate volleyball on the West Coast. You have to be really good, and anywhere in college, you have to be really good, but on the West Coast, like you see teams stack like guys from Europe and across California, and that's what, you know, UCLA used to do that kind of stuff. And I think UH is starting to hit that stride where they're getting those great European players and getting height. You know, I would love to continue to see local players. I think it's important, and we have great local players. We've always had great local volleyball players in Hawaii, but I think ultimately this team is built on a base that is meant to be a talent overload almost, which I don't say overload. It's not like it's not like they're Gonzaga, who I think is really, really good. And I'm not even saying Gonzaga is a straight path to the national championship. But if I was to say, this is a good question. If I was to say whether Gonzaga men's basketball, number one in the country, versus who's more dominant, Hawaii men's volleyball, I would say Gonzaga. And that's not because I think Hawaii's, and I still think Hawaii's super, super good. I just think Gonzaga is really, 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 really good. Doesn't mean they can't lose, but dominance is one thing, right? And I think Hawaii men's volleyball is better. I don't know if they're like superior, but I think they're better than everybody. So we'll see. I think it'll be good. We'll be going there as well. Sean says opening day tomorrow for his Mariners, and that'll be exciting as well for that state too. Hopefully everything starts going. Let's take a look actually at some of the games tomorrow. We got the Dodgers and the Rockies opening up, which is great to see because that'll be a preview of the Hawaii sports fans Dodgers-Rockies game, which we'll be doing the night before Hawaii football at UCLA and the Rose Bowl. And I plan on sitting in the Home Run Alley, the brand new section at Dodger Stadium. So, yeah. You want to come with me? Who researches all these kind of things at stadiums? But I do. Actually, it's because I can only do a lot of these things if I take a lot of people with me. So that's the best part, right? We can get suites and we can do little fun areas like we did at Yankee Stadium. I mean, that Yankee thing was so cool. Going back to that story, not only did we see Hideki Matsui before that game, but we had amazing, all kinds of beer. Joanna was there. Joanna drove in from Boston. We had it was so good. It was just fun, and that's the kind of fun stuff that surrounds the game. I mean, the game was good too. I mean, I think Aaron Judge came in a little while. He was hurt. But Masahiro pitched, which was cool to see, and it was fun. It was a fun night to be there, and I think baseball also is one of those games that's fun for fans. Even though fans think you're like, oh, I would never watch on TV, and it is harder. Even if you're watching your own team on TV, it's easier to get distracted, I think. But at a game, there's like all kinds of stimuli, like food and like vendors and just like stuff that's going around the game going on. So I feel like we might not always appreciate like the baseball watching for that. I also think that yes, we can improve on the game experience in a lot of ways that we've realized that during the pandemic, just how important that is, because if you go to some of these COVID protocol games, they're not going to have all of the bells and whistles. They're just like not going to put in the investment. Actually, when I went to Orlando to the Magic game, they did. I'm pretty sure they had most of their all of the flair that comes with the introductions and everything, but it was still very like cavernous in that arena in the Amway Center. So it did feel like it was just a different atmosphere. So fans bring atmosphere, and we want to be a part of that atmosphere. We want to add to that atmosphere. That's what Hawaii Sports Fans is about. It's about adding. It's about being a part of it, engaging, and also taking charge sometimes, having to be the ones that start all the the cheers. And we've done that. We've had to be the group all the time. Ohio State, Army, a lot of you guys were there too at the Army game. That was our New York tour that we did on the Yankees, and we did the Jets and the Mets. Yankees, Jets, Mets, UH versus Army. That's the kind of fun stuff that we do. And for this LA tour, it's going to be Hawaii and UCLA, but it's going to be Dodgers, Rockies, Angels, Yankees. So speaking of the Yankees, again, the Yankees are going to be back in Anaheim that weekend as well, that Monday. So that's going to be extended weekend. So you're not going to work on Monday. So make sure you take off for like Tuesday as well, so you can come back Tuesday. But yeah, that's going to be a fun weekend, and I expect everything to be open. I really do. I expect, California and Hawaii the numbers to be very low. And I think if we get back to those numbers that we had in the summer, like last summer when we had like 12 cases or whatever a day, like I think it's fair that to move back into, at least 50%, at least like, you can move like how they're doing in classrooms, moving kids closer. Like you still got to mask up. I think masks are rather going to be a part of society for a while. And second of all, sometimes you might want to wear a mask if you, don't want to get sick, or if you're going to be like around somebody. And I think this has taught a lot of people about like transmission in the air of droplets and like how close you are in proximity to people. So sometimes when you're talking to somebody and you don't have a mask on, now it seems weird to me to talk really close to somebody and not wear a mask. It's just strange how we have adjusted and changed. But I can see the mask wearing being a little bit. I can see like how Texas is doing, which they're not ready to do this yet, but they are having their full attendance at the Mariners game, at the Rangers game. But they're mandating mask wearing, and I will say at games, the ushers, if they tell you to wear a mask, they will get on you the whole game. Like that's what they've been doing. And at least at games that there's hardly any fans, right? Limited capacity, they can see everybody, so they'll point or they'll come up to you. So I mean that's important to keep it strict. And I think that it'll be interesting at Texas. I just gonna be interesting to see how they do it in Texas, because it'll be interesting to see. I mean, wow, all the fans. I don't know. It'll be so strange because sometimes we have to look at like vintage tape and we're like, oh, remember those days when had fans in the stands or everybody was sitting next to each other and stuff. But yeah, I mean, those days are, it seems weird because now we're just trying to get people into the stadium. But Texas Rangers, last I heard, they still were going to have on opening day allowing 100% capacity. So that should be a thing tomorrow to look out for. I think that'll be something on opening day to look out for as well. I'll be at Angels versus White Sox at Angels Stadium. Joanna says, as long as I can get Italian sausage and Fenway in April, I'm good. And Joanna has also bought some season tickets too for Red Sox, so she's excited about going to a lot of games there in Beantown, Boston, the Sox, Noma, Garcia Para. Me and Joanna saw the Patriots win the first Super Bowl. Their first Super Bowl in forever, whatever, 2000, when was it, Joanna? 2, when they won that Super Bowl. It was February 2002, and we were in Boston, actually, watching it. And then we went running up and down by Faneuil Hall, and it was fun. So that's some Boston Beantown memories. Your cousin from Boston, like that freaking commercial, that Sam Adams commercial. That's also a fun place to go. Me and Joanna went there, Sam Adams Brewery in Boston. But Joanna likes Harpoon. This is not a endorsement for Harpoon, but if you want to sponsor Harpoon, come, then let's do it, because I'm looking for sponsors. Or anybody who wants to sponsor, let's sponsor. And I'm going to have something going. But anyways, yes, so Joanna, we do not unfortunately play UMass. I don't know if we're ever going to go back to Amherst. That was such a strange trip, but kind of fun, because when we went to Amherst, that trip in 2017, we got to go to go to see the Red Sox play as well, but also see the Yankees on the other side and go to Cooperstown. So Joanna's laughing because I said Harpoon. That was a cool thing about having East Coast games. And a lot of our tours, when Hawaii goes to the East Coast, right, it's about connecting those East Coast cities or East Coast clubs or major league teams or professional teams together, stringing some games together. So that's what I really enjoy doing, right? Trying to make jumbo weekends where we can go and do a bunch of different games. So that was one time where we started in Boston, did Yankee game that night and a Red Sox. It was Red Sox versus at Fenway, Red Sox versus Orioles. It was the kid night, so they had those uniforms on that were like kid uniforms, like playing Little League. And the Red Sox got killed, but it was fine because we were eating so much like funnel cake and ice cream. Oh gosh. See, I like the food at every place I go to too. So, or not all the food, but I try everything, because some places have cool stuff. Like when we tried the the grasshoppers in Seattle or something. Gotta try everything. But I have to admit, some places, East Coast, South, Midwest, they don't have like the flavor, because the West Coast got the flavor. Like you go to Padres Stadium, you go to Dodgers, even Angel Stadium got flavor. Angel Stadium got poke. Angel Stadium even has poke at Angel Stadium. If I want to get poke, I can go to Angel Stadium. So like I'm not worried about West Coast. Like it's always, we hold it down when it comes to having food at games, and that starts with having local things. That's one thing I said. Like the Rams playing Coliseum was horrible. I hated like the Coliseum playing there. It's just so hot. It's such an old. I mean, it's not like I curse the Coliseum. It's just like so antiquated, and it's like hard to watch a game there. But the Rams sure know how to bring in the food, and they brought in all kinds of local vendors, and like it was amazing. Like you get the best food at the game, so that's where they win. And the West Coast has the best, so that's what happens. Joanna says funnel cake cam. Yeah, I made funnel cake cam while we were, because the game, we were walking around. And that's the thing about baseball too. As fans, you can walk around the stadium. The game gets boring, you can still have fun and go check out different parts of the game or of the stadium. Like at the Mets game on the tour with Amy, our other friend, me and her just walked around the whole stadium. They were legit. That was like the last game of the whole season for the Mets. Like it was like basically the last game, and it was the second game of a doubleheader. So there were like less than 1,000 people. I'm not even kidding. Like less than 1,000. It was already social distance that game, but on the top, we walked around and we just saw different parts, and then we got ice cream and then walked around. And it's cool to see different stadiums. Like that's the whole fun part. Like the facility, going to that facility is a part of the experience of going to the game, is being at that thing, right? Like it's cool to just even go to Fenway. I went on a Fenway Park tour Oh no, that Fenway Park tour that me and Joanna did was the day after we went to a game. The first game I ever went to at Fenway Park, me and Joanna were on the Green Monster in Boston and Fenway, and we had a home run ball hit right at us, and we were on the news for like 3 minutes straight. It was crazy, and because I had to keep showing slow mos to see if it was actually a home run, and it was, and it went into extras, and that was crazy. That was my first ever experience in Fenway. But then doing the tour the next day, it was still cool. It was like, wow, this is Fenway. And I was here last night. I watched the game, but now I have time to reflect like on, all the history and the stuff that occurred in the stadium. And I think that's something that's really cool about, some of these older stadiums that are still up, like Fenway and Camden Yards, and what other stadiums, like some of these older ones, obviously Wrigley. We've done Wrigley a few times at Hawaii Sports Fans. We've done Wrigley, and Wrigley is so fun too. In Chicago, it's fun to walk up to the stadium and walk past vendors and walk past people trying to sell you water or hot dogs, and people going to the game, and people pouring out of bars, and people going into bars to watch the game, and people who are probably going to get stuck in the bar because they are too wasted to make it into the game. Like, that's a part of the fan experience. Like, that's the part I love. And when you're from Hawaii too, it's fun because anywhere you go, right, people want to talk to you because you're from Hawaii and talk about Hawaii, and you get to be an ambassador from the place that you're from, and talk about all the great things about being from Hawaii, and people of course want to come, and you get to learn about, I remember going to what is the Duck Brewing place in Chicago? Which beer I'm talking about? The one with the duck on it, the Goose. Yes, in Chicago. Anyways, going there and talking to people before the game, and I was like, oh my gosh, the game's gonna start. But you could see like Fenway, there was like a cool little deck, and you could see like the, people filling in, and it's just cool to like be a part of that. And I think that'll be nice, if UH incorporates a lot of parts of the UH campus, which I think the whole campus should be a part of the stadium. I think it should just be like the stadium once you get in. Like, you're in. Like obviously you got to keep it a little bit restricted, but like incorporating what's around it, and maybe even having attractions around just to get other people, because it's like a community event, right? Not everybody can go in the stadium, but people want to be around the stadium. People want to be in bars outside the stadium, and that's a part of the buzz. Like, going to Green Bay, and when I went to Lambeau, and thinking about other people who were like, I work, like I remember the woman at the diner talking about how she can rarely go to games because the tickets are expensive, but she sees Green Bay after, Lambeau outside the window of where she works, and she gets excited with the game, and she can feel the energy and people coming in, but she herself doesn't go into the game. So when she does, it's like a real treat, and it's cool that the game brings those type of memories into the restaurant, that people that are there to see the stadium, like going to Lambeau on an off day, can meet somebody like her and experience some of the different places that you can on a game day. Like, we were at Lambeau for game day as well. We saw the Chiefs and the Packers on Monday Night Football in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and that was on our Wisconsin tour that also went to Madison, Wisconsin. And Hawaii didn't win that game in Wisconsin, but and neither did the Chiefs. The Packers actually won that game, and Aaron Rodgers shook Kevin's hand. My friend Kevin, you see him in the comments sometime, and Kevin was sitting around he was standing over the tunnel, reaching over, and Aaron Rodgers shook his hand. I didn't even know that Aaron Rodgers did this. I was just trying to shoot Aaron Rodgers, so I was taking a bunch of shots. So I was across the stadium, and I had like a decent lens on my camera that could get kind of close, and I was just shooting. Then when I looked back, I was like, oh my gosh, there's Kevin in there. And he's shaking Aaron Rodgers' hand, so that was cool. And I got to send it to him, and that was a cool thing. But that's a part of the game too. That's a part of the fan experience. Being there after the game, being there in the stadium or in the parking lot when the game is over to reflect on the game or to complain about the game. It's funny because, that's how, and a lot of you know how alcohol works as well. It like works its way up, and at a certain point, you're going to come back down, buddy. And that happens a lot of football games, unfortunately, to people who don't keep going that's the dangerous things, because it's like the people who stop at like halftime, which is good that they stop. They usually pass out and miss the rest of the game. But the people that keep going just stay drunk the whole game. But then, you know, there is a crash that eventually happens at some point. But, you know, you want to keep that excitement going all the time. So I don't even know where I was going with any of that. But I just want to go back to the fact that being in the stadium, regardless, is going to be fun. And having tours that I can take you folks on and bring you to LA, take you to Portland, take you to Vegas. I think we're going to be able to experience all of those things surrounding the game as well. And that's what's important, is having fun regardless of the game. And that's also one of my mantras, is have fun regardless of the score. And I had to teach myself that, because Joanna remembers this in 2013 on a Hawaii Sports Fans Tour, and Hawaii lost at the end, and I was so mad and so upset, and like viscerally upset, which is crazy that I would that's how much obviously very few people love Hawaii football as much as I do, but I used to let it affect my emotions so much that I know Joanna then went to like a club. I think a bunch of people, like even from the tour, and everybody back at the Cal were going out after the game, and I was like, "We lost. I'm staying in." And even my grandma was like, "What are you doing? Why are you lying down?" I was like, "No, Grandma, we lost. I'm going to sleep." But I try not to be like that anymore, and I never am like that anymore, because of course I want my team to win. Of course I'm going to be sad. Sometimes I might cry, like if we lose the Mountain West Championship to Boise. But I am always going to allow myself to, you know, not just feel the feelings, obviously, if my team loses, but realize the bigger picture and the bigger, have the perspective of being a fan of that game, of being there and making it fun. And games are always fun, right? And the bigger games, like going to Super Bowl, are even more fun. And they're really expensive, but they're also at a different level. It's just the experience of being there is a different level of being at a normal game. Like, it just is. It's not the same. It's like going to Wimbledon, right? Like, I went to the Bank of the West tournament in Stanford, which is a beautiful stadium, in Stanford Stadium, and in Stanford, California, on the Stanford University campus. A great tennis tournament. And I've seen the tennis tournament at UCLA. Then I go to Wimbledon, and then I go to the French Open, and then and then it's just like, okay, we've elevated to a different level, right? This is the same players that I saw at a different circuit event, but now at a major. Wow, like everything's elevated, everything feels different, you know. So that's something to experience this year. Joanna says, then getting shuttled in a golf cart to your car. Yeah, so Joanna also came to Super Bowl 49, and her Patriots beat the Seahawks on the goal line. Some of you remember that game. Somebody today in a text message actually called it the dumbest play ever. Okay, that was Sean, who we love, Sean Iman, our favorite. And we have to agree with him. That was the dumbest play in the history of the league. And as a Seahawks fan, they've taken it well. But it's nice to have a championship. Like, I have the feeling like, even like Kansas City losing this past year, and it was ugly and it was sad. And I was kind of upset because I didn't think a lot of the flags were necessary that were thrown against the Chiefs. But I thought that also ruined the flow of the game. And as a fan of the game, I want to see like a game flow. I want to see like back and forth. And it was just like never really got anywhere, and just really annoying. Okay, my team lost the Super Bowl. But the game itself was amazing. Being there, incredible. Obviously, it's a Super Bowl. It's always incredible. Of course, I want my team to win, but we want to have a good time as well. And at that Super Bowl, it was fun because we were like the last ones to leave Glendale Stadium, legit, like the last ones to leave that stadium in Phoenix, me and Joanna and, you know, the rest of our group. And so they took us on a golf cart back to our car, which is nice. Very blessed for the adventure, like Joanna says. But so many memories. And, you know, I think this year has proven that you can take sports for granted. You can take being a fan for granted. You can take, you can take traveling for granted, being on a plane. You can take being around your friends for granted. And I think this fall we'll see a little semblance of normalcy again for football season, and we can appreciate it even more when you're there. And my prediction, every game you'll be able to go to this season. I think every game will be open. in some capacity. And I'm saying that hoping that, you know, the rest of the people around the country, around the world, continue to get the vaccine, continue to do what's best to not let it spread. We're just stopping the spread. The slower we make the spread, the slower it will go away. Or the faster we slow the spread, the faster it'll go away. And that has already been proven in LA and around California, and that's exciting because now we have fans in the stands. So happy opening day to your team. If you're a fan of the Dodgers or the Angels and Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, then maybe you'll see your team win tomorrow. That's what I'm hoping. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Aloha.